mercado ainda teme riscos de uma recessão global.
O Brasil é o país da renda fixa. Esse é o discurso que eu mais escuto, principalmente em dias de queda da Bolsa de Valores como o de hoje.
Anything can happen in markets. I mean, anything can happen in markets, and it's the business I look at. When you're just looking at the price of something, you're not investing.
A Bolsa de Valores fechou em queda.
E essa é a maior queda da Bolsa.
Teve forte.
The market's gone down many times during that time. People have panicked during that time. Headlines have been terrible. You know, it looked like we were losing the war when we first bought it.
Eu não tenho ações de renda variável, eu tenho ações de renda fixa. As minhas ações, que elas inicialmente eram de renda variável, se tornaram ações de renda fixa. Por quê? Quando você entra no mercado focando o investimento e focando a elaboração de um portfólio, que seja um portfólio previdenciário, se você almeja ter uma renda mensal, por que você vai vender a ação? Você contrapõe então ao teu foco inicial. Se você tem a perspectiva futura de continuar recebendo mensalmente, para que vender? Tá entendendo? Então, se você tem essa postura, esse investimento de comprar uma ação, investir, receber os proventos, você não deve vender enquanto essa ação estiver te proporcionando resultados satisfatórios.
You don't want to buy to hold for a year. You don't want to buy with the idea that you could sell it in 2 years or 3 years, necessarily make money. You could lose money that way. But if you buy it for 10, 20, just keep buying the S&P 500 index and forget about all the other nonsense that's being sold to you.
É um projeto que eu aconselho a todos. Formular um programa de compra de ações e reaplicando todos os ganhos provenientes de juros e de dividendos. O importante é a carteira de previdência. A carteira de previdência que você constituiu, jamais ela deve ser negociada. Ela deve sempre ser progressivamente aumentada.
Vai pegar o mercado quando estiver bem, vai pegar o mercado quando não tiver, e ali sim investir em empresas que tenham histórico. Mas você chega uma hora que, eu falo por mim, né? Eu já invisto por prazer. Passa a ser um jogo gostoso, em que você vê o ganho acontecendo, o dinheiro e a quantidade de ações se acumulando. Então, o segredo é consistência e deixa que o tempo faz o resto. Não se preocupem, vai entrar no momento de mais alta, vai entrar no momento mais baixa, mas acertar a mosca ou no fiofó da mosca é impossível. Ora, se o nome é renda variável, vamos levar a sério isso, é variável mesmo. Varia para os dois lados, varia para cima e varia para baixo. Então, se alguém não tiver o perfil de aguentar, e estamos no Brasil, aguentar 50% de queda, sem se cortar os pulsos, sem perder o sono, entendeu? A renda variável é a garantia de um futuro feliz. É o que o Barsi falou, né? É a aposentadoria, né? Aposentadoria que no final da história você não vai nem usar, porque é tanta, o dinheiro se multiplica tanto e tal, e passa a ser tão gostoso ver esse dinheiro crescendo, né? Você vai comprar felicidade.
Well, I don't think people understand there's a 100% correlation with what happens to a company's earnings over several years and what happens to the stock. If the company, McDonald's has done very well as a company, right? The stock has done very well. People worry about too much money supply, what's happened to the price of oil, who's the president, who's being nominated for the Supreme Court,
it's all
the
earnings.
ozone layer. It has nothing to do. McDonald's earnings go up the next 10 years, the stock will go. If you don't think you're a good ice skater, or if you're convinced you're not a good cellist, you're not going out and try it. But people are buying stocks anyway. Yeah. They're not discouraged, they just think it's a gamble. Yeah. So therefore they go forward and they bet on one stock for a week and a half and it goes up and they make $2 on it. Then they sell it and they buy something else. When 3 years is over, all they've done is generate a lot of commissions. And they've probably lost money. That's a mistake.
So your advice is what?
If you don't understand a company, if you can't explain it to a 10-year-old in 2 minutes or less,
yes,
don't own it. Because when it goes down, let's say the stock goes down 2 points.
You won't understand what's going on.
What do? Do you buy more? Do you flip a coin? I mean, who knows what what all these things are with auto-back planes and mega flops? Who knows what all this is?
But the market's going to go up and down. Well, human nature hasn't changed a lot in 25,000 years. And some event will come out of left field and the market will go down or the market will go up. So volatility will occur and markets will continue to have these ups and downs. I think that's a great opportunity if people can understand what they own. Basically, corporate profits have grown about 8% a year historically. So corporate profits double about every 9 years. The stock market ought to double about every 9 years. So I think the next market's about 3,800 today, 3,700. I'm pretty convinced the next 3,800 points will be up. It won't be down. The next 500 points, the next 600 points, I don't know which way they're going. So the market ought to double in the next 8 or 9 years. It ought to double again in the 8 or 9 years after that. Because profits will go up 8% a year and stocks will fall. That's all there is to it.
As quedas que virão e elas vão passar, e o mercado sempre se supera, né? A próxima alta vai ser maior do que a anterior. Só que precisa estar lá, né? Você não pode sair quando está em baixa. Então, primeira coisa, não saia em baixa. Segunda coisa, invista esperando que vai ter emoção. Tanto você não ficou rico porque o mercado subiu 5% no dia, e também você não ficou pobre porque o mercado caiu 10%. Porque se você não comprou e não vendeu, você está lá, né? O mercado volta. Então, sangue frio. Sangue frio. Não aguenta os trancos que o futuro prova. Isso todos os grandes investidores do mundo, isso não é no Brasil, como ser exceção, eles são de investimento constante e aguentam o tranco. Essa é a minha mensagem para a turma que vai entrar, eventualmente ver 100 mil reais virar 60, virar 80 e tal, e ficar louco. Não fica, não. Se tiver mais uns troquinhos lá, põe que você vai comprar um produto em promoção. Essa é a minha maneira de pensar.
Nunca, artigo 1º, nunca invista ou aplique no mercado aquele recurso que você tem programado para qualquer outro projeto. Invista e direcione para o mercado exclusivamente o recurso que você pode disponibilizar por tempo indeterminado.
Em primeiro lugar, se o cara tiver data certa para precisar do dinheiro, renda variável não é o lugar. Deixa lá no CDB, onde ele se sentir confortável, mas não na renda variável, porque pode ser na data que ele precisar, o mercado está valendo, o mercado está caindo.
Stock market, the most important organ is the stomach. It's not the brain. There's always, on the way to work, the amount of bad news you can hear is almost infinite now. So the question is, can you take that? I mean, do you really have faith that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, common stocks are a place to be? If you believe in that, you should have some money in equity funds. I mean, it's a question, what's your tolerance for pain? I mean, the stock market's a very good place to be, but I can toss a coin now. Is it going to be lower 2 years from now? Higher? I don't know. More people lost money waiting for corrections and anticipating corrections than the actual corrections. Well, you ought to look in the mirror every day and say, what am I going to do if the market goes down 10%? What am I going to do if it goes down 20? Am I going to sell? Am I going to get out? If that's your answer, you should be reducing it today. Well, hey, there's perfect record. I think the 13 years I ran Magellan, the market went down 9 times, 10% or more. I had a perfect record. I went down more than the market. Every time I went down more. So I just didn't worry about it. The point is, when you say to yourself, do I need this money in a year? Do I need this money in 2 years? Do I need this money in 3 years? So my longer term stock market's been the best place to be last 10 years, last 30 years, last 130 years. But if you need the money in 1 or 2 years, you shouldn't be buying stocks. You should be in a money market fund.
Don't listen to the naysayers. Everything I ever did, the thing that I heard out of people's mouth was, that's impossible, that can't be done, or no. So whenever someone said to me, it can't be done, I heard, it can be done. When they said no, I heard yes. And when they said it's impossible, I heard, it is possible. Because I am a strong believer. And I said to myself, I'm going to do it and I'm going to show it to them. Maybe it has never been done before. That's perfectly fine with me. But I'm going to do it. And I did not listen to the naysayers. But I didn't listen to those losers. It's just the reality of it is that you cannot listen to the naysayers. So this is a very important lesson for all of you. So when someone says, no, this is a stupid idea, you in your mind, you don't have to say it, but in your mind just say to yourself, fuck you, you're an asshole. What do you know?
These people had one thing in common. You know, they knew they had it in themselves. They knew they could be something beyond where they were. They were willing to put their time, their energies to better themselves. And I would like to tell you of 2 women that each sold a business to Berkshire Hathaway, to me actually, for many, many, many millions of dollars. Both of them started with $2,500. By a coincidence, it was the exact same amount. It was everything they had in the world. And one of them was a woman who landed in Seattle in 1917, couldn't speak a word of English, had a tag around her neck. The tag said, Fort Dodge, Iowa. The Red Cross got her to Fort Dodge, where she was reunited with her husband who had come to the country a couple of years earlier. And she lived in Fort Dodge for 2 years, and as she put it, she felt like a dummy. She couldn't pick up the language. She couldn't learn a word. And so she and her husband decided to move to Omaha. So they came to Omaha in 1919, and there she found a small colony of Russian Jews, so she started feeling more at home. And then as her oldest daughter went to school, she would come home, this daughter, Frances, and she would teach her mother the words she'd learned in school that day. And this woman, Rose Blumpkin, spent 20 years saving money, bringing first her siblings over, her mother and father, $50 at a time. She sold used clothing to do it. She had 4 children during this period. And by 1937, after 20 years, she'd saved $2,500. She went to Chicago and she bought what she could of furniture. Her dream had always been to open a furniture store. And this woman who had never gone to school one day in her life, with $2,500, but with the same spirit that the people in this room had about having a dream and working to accomplish that dream, she built a business which she sold to me in 1983 for $60 million approximately, and which did $1.5 billion worth of business last year. The 4th generation is working in that business. This woman, Rose Blumpkin, she worked for me until she was 103. And then she retired and she died the next year, which is a lesson to all of Berkshire's managers that premature retirement, you can't tell what's going to happen. But Mrs. B, with her $2,500, one further fact about her, she could not read or write. And she went into a furniture business, and she didn't bring anything unique in furniture, but she brought a determination to succeed. She knew she could outwork anyone else. She knew she cared about her customers. She worked at very low gross margins, but she built this incredible business. And I saw one other woman who did a similar thing with $2,500. I paid her hundreds of millions of dollars for her business. So I decided to go to the source and get these people before, I don't want you guys coming around to me asking me hundreds of millions of dollars. I'd like to join in with you much earlier. So I've